And we are live, and welcome everyone back to the Sanctum Sanctorum. I, as always, am your host, Widow Son, and with me today is one of my illustrious co-hosts, TF. And before we introduce our guest here, StooDogg will not be joining us today. He is a little under the weather. So StooDogg, if you are listening right now or getting ready to tune in, get to feeling better, man. And be back with us next week. Hope everything is okay with you. So everybody, just send good thoughts and everything over to StooDogg so he can get better. So today we have a very, very special guest with us today, and this is a show that I have been, piecing together over the last couple of weeks, and we had to reschedule and everything like that. And so everything has finally come to fruition for our little gathering today. We are joined by the illustrious Cas Warfox, and he is going to be hanging out with us in the Sanctum today for the next couple of hours and talking about his channel, his content, and everything like that. Cas, welcome to the show, my brother.
Howdy.
It is indeed
a pleasure.
It's going, man. It's going, and thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to come on the show today and hang out with us and talk about your channel and yourself and your work and everything. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna have a lot of fun today. So, and I see that Sir Hatman is here. So
howdy, Hatman. How you doing?
Let's see. He says that StooDogg is feeling sick from excessive exposure to Jared Wars.
I don't know shit about Jared Wars, but that sounds like an indication it's pure autism.
I think it's just a well, as far as the Jared Wars thing, I highly recommend going and looking up that dude's channel, because it's just like consistent. It's just consistent, like, commentary that makes absolutely no sense. And TF, how are you doing, my brother?
Doing pretty good. Did karate this morning, so feeling great with that.
Well, I mean, we as we've discussed before, we all know that you're, into the DDP yoga. And so, your next step is, becoming the next Diamond Dallas Page, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. I'm trying to come up with a character I could use in professional wrestling, and, maybe I should become more like a comedian with it, and, drop like, maybe I should just come in dressed as a clown and just, in a way, be the nightmare of everybody there.
They already did the clown gimmick in, like, the early days of WWE. Doink the Clown was his persona. So
wow.
Yeah, you're a few decades behind on that, dude. So anyway, everybody's gonna start coming in here slowly but surely. Hatman is here already, and we should have hopefully a few others migrating this way over time. Mm-hmm. So Cas, as a lot of people are aware, and your contact with your channel and everything, if they have watched it or not, kind of fill us in on, first of all, on the channel itself and the work that you do.
Okay. Well, my channel has always existed as a bit of an opinion piece channel. I've always been a bit of a loudmouth on the internet, and people who know me from the very beginning will know that if there's something I care about talking, at least enough to have an opinion, I will talk about it. And obviously, one of the main aspects that people watch my channel is a series I've developed throughout practically almost a year called the Hunt series, which is usually something I take my time to document the insanity that takes place on the internet. Sometimes it may be concepts, groups, or people. And one of the most common aspects of the series is the hunting of pedophiles, due to a lot of strange circumstances that came about while developing the series that sort of made it as a consistent thing. So I'll say it like that.
Well, I mean, the internet nowadays is just full of loudmouth people. I mean, look at me and TF. I mean, we're like we were chit chatting before the show started, and it's like I said, he and I have known each other since high school, and we're about as loudmouth as they come. So,
oh yeah.
So when first and foremost, after talking, about kind of what you've been doing, what really drew you to going after predators and pedophiles on? Is it? And I know it's not just on YouTube, because I've watched your content, and it's also on other platforms. Like, what made you decide to start doing this, and like what other platforms have you really been working on as far as that goes?
Well, strangely enough, I guess you can say this entire question goes through a long tread of a 2-year history that I've been doing shit on the internet. So are you sure about that? Because that could be a long story.
You tell as much of it as you want, and this is your time to entertain the people with us and get information out there. So I mean, if TF and I have questions or something, we'll chime in, but feel free to tell your story, man.
All right. Well, it's kind of sort of directed and not exactly entirely related to how my channel started, or at least in terms of actually making content, because obviously if you look into my channel enough, I've had this thing set up for years, but it wasn't up until at least a total of 2 years that I started making content. And there's a few particulars as to why that was the case. It started back, I think, around 2017. I was mostly a guy who helped co-run, Facebook meme pages with people in terms of, trolls, joking, making fun of politics, making fun of them SJWs as part of it too. And I was just nothing more than a shit poster. Of course, even back then, if you look at the like the most beginnings of my first ever real streams, I have at times exposed a predator or two before. So it's never exactly been foreign territory for me. But it was not something I dedicated a lot of time to, because at the time, or at least I don't know if the internet changed all of a sudden, or if I'm just realizing the reality of it now. But back then, I thought this was a one and done deal because of the groups I talked to, and wasn't really sure what else to go there. But 2017, especially around the fall, a lot of personal shit started happening. Won't get too much into it, but let's just say 2017 was just not a good year for a kid in college trying to figure out his way in life. And it resulted in dealing with the fact of a loss of a family member and all this other crazy shit that came about. I'd rather not get too much into details.
Oh, no, that's fine.
But early 2018, I was contacted by a fan of mine about streaming. And that was because 2018 was basically the year of streaming, and everyone and their mother had a streaming show. Like, it was so beyond saturated, I swear to God, it was like playing Minecraft or video games on YouTube. Everybody had a streaming show. Everyone had an opinion. And because of the circumstances that I've faced, I had a lot of free time on my hands. I mean, a lot of that time was still relegated to a lot of personal developments and trying to learn shit outside of just college, but I was bored. Imagine that being the fucking origins. Everyone's like, I want to be an influencer because I feel my opinions are important, or I want money. I'm bored. I started all of this shit because I was fucking bored. I had like nothing else to do in my free time. So because I've had a few contacts with a few friends of mine, I started going on a bunch of random shows just to be a guest and talking about random shit. I talked about politics. I shit posted about politics. I've made or posted memes about shit. And that's where a lot of it was for like 2018. It wasn't until most of 2019 I became a host and started talking about this shit. From, most of it was more political related and news related because, I don't know, I just thought it was funny talking about the stupidity of everyone reacting to the news and, everyone screaming about this and screaming about that because I find a certain comedy and hilarity talking about the insanity of things. Just observing shit happening and then having a bit of a chuckle at all the crazy shit that's going on and how insane the world is. And who knows, maybe that's some kind of character study about how much of a piece of shit I am. I'm pretty sure someone will make a video or stream going like, Cas Warfox has a psychological profile about this. I don't fucking know. I think it was late 2019 where I made a switch to my channel about predator hunting. And it was the oddest circumstances that made it. As I've said before, hunting down a predator is something that I've basically done before. Making fun of them, exposing their shit, trying to help out with, people getting that reported as much as I could. Even though I'm just like one retard. I know I'll use that word just once. Because that's kind of what I am when it comes down to handling so much stuff.
Well, I mean, we all have those moments. I mean, trust me. If you had been hanging around TF and I over the years, trust me, you would have seen that you were not the only one that has that problem.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Jesus. But like what happened was in 2019, and I'm still trying to realize this in my head, right? It sort of shifted towards this topic. And I still don't entirely know why. But somebody told me that there was a ton of pedophiles all over Twitter, and some of them are making YouTube channels to preach their bullshit online, and all this like spastic conversations about how they believe that kids can consent and all this crazy shit. And I just looked at that shit and went, are you fucking kidding me? I went from exposing one tard some years ago to all of a sudden there's this entire community of crazy people trying to justify the shit. Now, granted, I've heard about the map community before, right? But like everyone else, because I'm just not at the time and still ain't very well acquainted with Twitter culture. I'm not very good at keeping up with Twitter stuff. That's why I'm usually vacant on Twitter. I just don't really care most of the noise that goes on Twitter. But there was this community of like maps, these self-proclaimed pedophiles. And there was this one called Charlie Foxtrot that someone showed me legitimately doing every dishonest tactic to justify it. And I just sat there and I went, well, this actually genuinely pisses me off this time. Like, you're telling me this is a thing, that there's a fucking community of these retards out there. Again, apologies for the wording, but that's just how I can explain it the most I can. So I made a stream, I think it's called Time for Pedo Hunt, where it was just me and a bunch of friends of mine, and only some from Facebook and other places, and we just had a laugh at the stupidity and mock them. And for some reason, more and more people came to me and started giving me all kinds of information about, self-proclaimed pedophiles, potential pedophiles, people who defend pedophiles, contrarians who viciously defend pedophiles. There was so much stuff to look into. And I figured, you know what? This may not be the wisest decision in the world. I don't typically want to make shows out of stuff like this, but fuck it. I might as well just make a series about that. And for the first couple of months after that stream, I've spent most of my time developing an idea for a series based on this stuff with certain rules and ideas and things I'll go into and things I won't go into. And it eventually just went on from there and kind of spiraled into its own massive shit show.
So have you ever been doxxed or had anybody do anything and like as revenge for you doing some of this stuff that exposes these pedophiles?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good question. I haven't necessarily been doxxed, but have been threatened to get doxxed at least more than several times.
So sorry, go on.
Go ahead. No, I was just about to say that I've had several attempts made with people trying to dox my ass, and I really wouldn't say there's a lot of groups that oppose me. It's mostly just the pedophiles themselves and some weird group of contrarians that pop out of nowhere to essentially preach their morals about how apparently it's wrong to call this shit out on a public platform.
Well, if they're using a public platform, they deserve to be called out on it. I mean, yeah. Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, that's all public.
Exactly.
And it's not like you're participating in cancel culture where, in cancel culture, someone goes, well, this person offended me, or I didn't like what this person said, so therefore I'm going to call their bosses and get them fired. You're calling out people who are either committing actual crimes or are in the process of about to commit actual crimes.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah, mostly like what I talk about is people who admit the shit, who try to advocate for it, and those who are in the process of legitimately committing shit. I'm not at no point in my show am I attacking people who hide behind or describe things as like, oh, well, this is like you talk about drawing shit. Like I don't talk about drawing stuff. I don't talk about like video games that have depictions of characters. I just don't talk about that shit because there's no point to. My sole focus has always been on the legit freaks out there who want to justify or even attempt such things. And when it comes to your doxing question, yeah, I've been threatened quite a lot with doxing before. Even before pedo hunting, that's kind of been a thing because, again, I'm a loudmouth asshole. I have standards and belief systems, and when you start compromising that, I will legitimately call you out on it. And I've called out a few people who've done some shady things who I used to be friends with, and blah, blah, blah. Needless to say, I've been threatened with my dox before outside of just pedo hunting. But I think the number of threats only increased as I started getting into pedo hunting.
Well, that's one thing I don't get is why would you want to doxing someone to me is very childish. It shows that to me it shows that you're incapable of
a conversation.
Exactly. Thank you. I was trying to squeeze that word out there, but I couldn't find it. Haven't had any caffeine yet, so the brain hasn't, is not firing on all cylinders, which it never really is in the first place, according to some people. But, I mean, TF can back me up on that. So,
yeah.
But it's such. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. To me, doxing is such a bitch move. If you have no other means of getting a point across than to purposefully go find someone's information and post it somewhere with malicious intent, then you pretty much don't need to be on the internet.
Oh yeah.
Because and it's like I always say about my show. Certain people and topics and everything will get brought up. The purpose of this is to have a few laughs, discussion, commentary, and if there's an issue with it, then post it in the comments section, and everyone who listens to the show and does the show, such as myself or TF or yourself or anything like that, we can have healthy discussion and debate in the comment section. That's what it's there for. But to blatantly now, like, okay, let's take a step back for just a second. Now, the first instance of doxing that I ever heard of, and this is legitimately the truth, was during the whole Jared debacle, as I call it. Jared Gate. There you go.
Yeah.
Where people were posting his information everywhere, and people were calling his house, and I did find sending the pizzas a little funny. I have to admit, I like a good old school prank. I do. I like a good old school prank, and definitely sending a pizza to somebody's house at all hours of the day and night is definitely old school prank 101.
Well, Anonymous did that to Hal Turner. That was like one of the pranks that Anonymous pulled on him, and it was just hilarious. They would like send just pallets of stuff to his place as well.
Well, right, but see, at the time when it was originally being done, if you knew like where the person lived or their parents' name or something like that, you just look it up in the phone book, get the address, and then there you go.
Yeah.
But when you do it, and like I said, the pizzas and everything were funny. But when it comes to starting to threaten someone's family, or basically like calling their house 24/7 and all of this, that's intimidation. That's malicious intent, and there is a line. There is a line. There's a line between pulling a good prank on someone and being an asshole.
Oh yeah.
And so when all of that started, I'm like, okay, I don't support that. Like I said, the food and pizza thing, that was kind of funny. I had a chuckle at his expense because of that, just like everyone else. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, you don't be calling up somebody's house at 24 hours a day. And I mean, and I'm not trying to, and I'm certainly not defending the man by any means whatsoever. I mean, he clearly is a scumbag, and he deserved to be exposed for the sick individual that he is. And so, but yeah, if your only means of attempting to get back at someone is taking their information and posting it somewhere with malicious intent, then you're a coward. You're an absolute coward.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
And it's like, what was it? It was the second episode of the show here when I had StooDogg on, and I was bringing StooDogg on basically, to talk about, the spam YouTube channels and spammers in general and hackers and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And some people were coming in, and I did make the comment that doxing was illegal. And while people's personal information at one point, like, can either of you tell me when the last time you actually saw a phone book was? Like a real phone book?
So I had one delivered to my apartment a few years ago. That's it.
What about you, Cas?
It's been quite some time. I can hardly remember.
A phone book? What's that?
What's that? Oh my god! What's a piece of obscure technology?
It's paper and glue, and it has these things called words in it. I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking at here, but
what are these words of which you speak?
and what is this phone book you speak of? If you, it's like people nowadays, if you can't find it on Google, they're just like, screw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, give that.
I can't find it on my ex iPhone. I paid $1,000 for with special emo animations. It doesn't exist.
Oh God, you sound like a lot of those half-wits on Instagram and TikTok.
Oh, don't get me started on Instagram and TikTok. Oh, Jesus Christ.
We'll touch on TikTok and all of that in a little bit. Hello, Wanderer. Hello, K316. How's it going, guys? Once again, welcome. So, but my point with all that is, like, somebody was making the points like, well, you could find someone's personal information in a phone book. Okay, yeah, that's great and all, but when was the last time you actually saw a phone book? Nowadays you actually have to I guess you have to pay to get someone's personal information.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of websites that try to be like the new digital phone book, but a lot of them tend to be paid services, especially if you happen to use like sites like the White Pages or some shit.
Right. But I will go ahead and say this now. Doxing with malicious intent is very illegal.
Yeah.
And if you disagree with that, then you disagree with that. But it is, and even TF can back me up on that. Doxing with malicious intent is very illegal. It's called harassment, and it's called harassment and violation. Well, that would fall, I guess, under the violation of privacy in a way. But well, now when it comes to the exposing of these predators and everything, Cass, where do you fall as far as posting their I mean, do you actually post personal information about these people, or is it just getting the actual information to the authorities? Or I mean, where do you draw the line on that, basically?
Where I draw the line is actually rather simplistic. That if I were to possess a pedophile's docs, I don't go out of my way to post it publicly, especially if I haven't confirmed it. What I do though, is especially if there's a necessity behind it, like an immediate one. I would use that information just to simply report this shit to the police and help with other groups of friends of mine. And if I can get in contact with well-known pedo hunter groups that are a lot more organized and blah, 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 like I'll send them that information too. Be like, hey, can you help us out reporting this to the police? I'm a lot more focused on if I have someone's information, they're doing something like actually illegal, like legit, they're trying to hurt somebody, report that to the police. I don't like throw it out necessarily, because I think there's a lot of complications when you do throw it out there. And not only that, I go with the outage of, if you dox someone and people know you dox them, and that person gets swatted or some shit like that, guess who the cops are going to be looking for? They're going to be looking for you, buddy.
Right.
You have to be a little bit careful with that, because doxing is like, it's playing fire with fire. Even if there might be a legit reason to immediately post it against someone who's doing something, like, it can bite you in the ass really quickly. You have to be careful with it. That being said, if when it comes to doxing, I tend to treat it with special care, because I do think of it as essentially a digital equivalent of a nuke, because once you post it out there, there's chances are you can't put it back again as a thing. Someone being anonymous or private on the internet probably isn't a thing anymore, and there's a lot of potential consequences that can come with that person, and by extension could mean for you. If it's not the law coming after you, it's people coming after you because you decided to play vigilante and somebody could have gotten hurt. What would happen, for fuck's sakes, if it turns out the person you doxed wasn't a pedophile after all?
Right.
Yeah, and stuff like that has happened.
Yeah, a lot. I should know. I've seen it too many times to count. And, oh yeah, Gage the Doom guy made a great example, actually. I was about to mention him about, like, people have threatened my docs, right? That shit's been going on for years. practically 5 total years of me constantly trolling, posting memes, doing stupid shit, and then going to pedo hunting, I've always been threatened with doxing, right? But so far, I haven't really had that much of an issue where someone started posting my docs. Gage, the Ranting Doom guy, who is a friend of mine and helps me out with some of this stuff because his friends have came across with a considerable amount of pedophiles. In fact, he's been kind of one of my sources for that very reason. And me and his group help each other out as much as we can. He's a good friend of the show. He got doxxed some time ago. I think this was 5 months ago when the pedophiles came and started threatening to ruin him if he doesn't stop talking about certain pedophiles like Amos Yee, that if he doesn't quit the game, that he's going to get his shit thrown out there. And of course, we just made fun of them. Some weeks ago, he got swatted.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa.
He got swatted some weeks ago.
Oh my
Yeah.
god! Oh my
And
god!
And that stuff, it's illegal. I mean, it's like doing that is stepping over line, because it's one of those things where if the cops go in and wind up shooting someone, and there have been those cases, that person who swatted them is, or the group of people are guilty of murder by proxy.
And actually, I also that would be depending on what they actually reported that caused the swatting itself. That could also be construed, I believe, as filing a false police report.
Well,
Attempted murder.
Well, the whole thing is filing a false police report.
Well,
Right.
I mean, it's same. It's basically, same shtick, different terminology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To clarify, though, thankfully his police, his local police department, weren't gun ho about anything, and they were skeptical about the claims that this swatter did. So when they came to ask questions, and nothing necessarily happened, thank God, but there was a definite moment of everyone being, including the police, being confused as what the hell's going on, and it did lead to cops coming to his door, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. But
So they didn't just kick his door in.
no, thankfully they didn't. They're kind of used to this at this point. I think a lot of the police departments are.
See, and that right there is it should be shocking to everyone that the cops have gotten used to this. They're like, crap, it's somebody that we're going to SWAT now.
Yep. It's been extremely common for the last 4 years, if I remember right. I know swatting's been still existed back then, of course, and like no shit, Sherlock. But it's been one of those things where it's been rampant for 4 years straight, and it got to the point where like police on average seem like they're just a lot more skeptical of these kind of reports now, which thankfully for the YouTuber or the person being the victim of the swatting, it probably means that they're less likely to get shot. Problem is, what would happen if one of those reports were real and the police didn't take it seriously? Now that's another scary factor that's been created because people like to weaponize information against someone for ultimately extremely petty reasons. It's actually rather sad how that goes, but needless to say, Gage is fine, but he was definitely not happy about it, and I hope he finally gets the cops to do something about it because as far as I know, he's been on top of that. So, excuse me.
No, you are not excused. There's no excuse for that.
Oh, arrest me, officer. I did nothing wrong.
I'm gonna dox you now. I'm gonna dox you.
No.
So how if it's okay to ask, can you kind of give us a number of how many you've actually taken down or helped take down, and how many were actually placed in jail?
The answer is right now is I don't really know, because again, most of the people I target tend to be maps. And
for people out there, could you tell us what MAP stands for?
MAPS in their terminology stands for minor attractive person, or attracted person, excuse me. And it's basically their way of trying to use the LGBT terminology to justify pedophilia as a concept. Because they know for a fact that the word pedophile, obviously, is an extremely disgusting word. Everyone knows what it means. Everyone knows the type of optics involved when someone says that word. So they attempt to change the word in order to justify their belief system further and try to trick people into believing that it's somehow something different, despite the fact that it's basically the same shit, different coat of paint.
Right. I mean, you can't be making, I think one of the best examples of something like that I've heard is you can't make Coca-Cola for 200 years the same way, and then you're just going to tell people, oh, well, we're going to take out this one little thing and call it Diet Right. I mean, you can't do that. So,
yeah. What I will say about most of the situations, that most of the people I've covered so far tend to be maps. There is a few people who have done some rather fucked up things, such as Andy the animal abuser, for an example. And last time I've had any knowledge of what's going on, I wouldn't say he's exactly been thrown into the slammer, but I will say that the police are definitely aware of him, and they're not going to just ignore him. I'll say that.
Right. Now I know that. I'm aware of the situation or of the existence of this vile person that you've just spoken of.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't even really think I could use the term person, to be honest with you. And TF, I sent you a video from Hatman about him, didn't I?
About who again?
This Andy guy, the animal abuser and everything. And
yeah.
For those in the audience who are not aware, Cass, can you kind of break down Jabba the Hutt for us?
Oh yeah, so Andy the animal abuser, which is someone we came across ever since around November of 2019, when we realized he had associations with a pedophile named Joseph Daniels, which thankfully for some of our works with other groups and whatnot, we wouldn't say we got him Joseph Daniels arrested necessarily, but we did get him, Jared Genesis off the internet. Because we got the parents to realize what the fuck's going on, and like his brother, and they're like, oh, okay, so they basically stripped him of his access to the internet entirely. We don't know yet exactly if that's going to result with the police, but the reports have been made, to my knowledge.
Well, and Jared Genesis, like he always finds a way to come back, and I think at some point he will, but for now there is a nice reprieve where the dude is not out there.
Yeah. The point. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what's really bad is he just has these followers who will come to his aid, come to his defense, and stand up for him. But it's just kind of like guys like that don't deserve to have anybody come to their aid and their defense. And it just kind of shows how either A, he's warped people, or those people were already warped and they just are congregating together.
Yeah.
So how did you first become aware of Jabba the Andy?
I became aware of it because of a particular YouTuber known as Ryuki. He's a good friend of Gage, the Ranting Doom Guys group, and has other associations with different groups of people. And I came into contact with this because Gage was talking to Joseph Daniels to figure out, okay, is this guy a legit freak or not? Because there was rumors about him. And Joseph Daniels admitted right off the bat that he wants to fuck a kid. Which was insane. We thought it was a troll. at first, right? We thought he was just some asshole seeking attention, which there has been some cases of that being the case a little bit. But it turns out he's just a mentally deranged person with some serious levels of autism, and there's something deeply wrong with him, as it's been made self-evident through his actions and what have you. It turns out, no, this guy isn't a troll. He's a legit freak. He's got something wrong with him. Something is not right with this kid. There's like friends of mine who I've enlisted the help of who have done a lot of like special, like let's just say special psychology work in terms of very special individuals. When I talked to them and allowed them to talk to Joseph Daniels behind, like during a Skype call, they were just like, yeah, there's something wrong with this kid. Like, this is not like, some kind of like edgy game or whatever from an autist. This is someone with some serious mental problems. So we were going after Joseph Daniels, and we ended up coming across Andy through him, because Andy is a good friend of Joseph Daniels, and he defends Mr. What we like to call him, Bojangles.
Hey, now wait a minute. Now that's a pretty good little, chicken chain. So, don't mess with the Bojangles now, man. Come on.
Yeah. But like, we call him Bojangles as a joke, and there's other jokes we made of him. I'll not get into detail. That it's probably a little too on the edgy side, but he was a genuine freak, and it took a while for us to get the parents to be convinced about this, because he had some issues. Andy defended him, and we found out real quickly. Andy was he's got a thing for animal abuse. Like, from the get-go, he was trying to post bestiality porn on my stream to take it down. He was trying to post animal abuse. Yeah. Now, thankfully, that's been taken care of. I even went as extreme as to delete the stream, keep it, and then edit out shit and then put it back up, so it stays within TOS. And I still got my shit taken down, of course. And it wasn't for graphic content, though. It was because I cyberbullied a pedophile in YouTube's terminology. So, if you want to see that stream and how crazy it was, it's all, of course, on my BitChute account.
Nationalist wants to know, is Jangles still banned from the internet by his brother?
To my knowledge, yes, he is. And if he isn't, we'll pretty much be instantly aware by the time he does anything. So, yeah, don't get me wrong. It's basically, this whole pedo hunting thing to me is basically a repeated process of just trying to keep tabs on this stuff, so that the more compile, the more it will be easier to get these people thrown to a slammer if or when they do something, or actually rather when, because they always seem to go down that path. So Andy is a starch defender of his of this Joe Bangles guy. We end up finding out later through other people that Andy has a history of attempting to manipulate little girls and grooming them to beat animals and then send pictures for sexual gratification.
Oh my God.
Yeah. There was a stream I did called The Murder in the Petting Zoo, as a little play on words with him, and I interviewed his victim of at the time, I think she is now 13 years old. And I think 12 at the time. And she explained the story, and she had screenshots and showed an expose video that's been archived at somewhere, whatever the case is, that he was trying to manipulate her to beat her cat and try to convince her that it was okay to do so, wanting her to start with small stuff before eventually, landing on his goal, which was a lead pipe.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's fucking disgusting. So we've been after Andy ever since around December, I think. And some recent developments came up with an audio of recording I received from a friend of mine that he started admitting to, Andy started admitting to, beating his dog, and had an audio recording of him basically doing something that, although is kind of ambiguous because it's an audio recording, you can tell that the fucking dog is screaming for dear life. It's petrified. It's terrified beyond fucking belief, and you can tell that there's something going on. I also put that on the stream that Hatman also used in his video. So we know Andy through that. For Joe Bangles, the reason we got him, genesis off the internet, so to speak, is because he sent a dick pic to a minor, and we tried to harass one of them, and somebody convinced him to send out his details. I think somebody did a decoy. I can't remember all of it. There was so much crazy shit going on at the time. People found out his docs. People started reporting this to his parents and his local police department, from what I've been told, because I wasn't given that information. That was a bunch of other people who just went insane with it and started, reporting him anywhere they could. And ever since then, he's been grounded. I don't know if he'll ever be back.
Wow.
It's fucking crazy.
Well, no, I knew a lot about the whole Andy situation. I was actually around when the video and everything of him got posted onto a Facebook page for an animal rights group, and within maybe not even an hour, it literally just literally just blew up. People were pissed. And and myself included. I already knew of his existence, as sick and sad as that is. But I still really have no words for I still really have no words about how I honestly feel about that dude, because he's honestly one of the sickest people that I've ever encountered on this platform.
Oh yeah. There's something wrong with that individual. There's been a lot of screaming and whining about if he's a kid or not. I honestly don't really care. The law is still the law in that regard after what he's done. That's extremely fucked up behavior. Also, real quick, do you have a Discord server? Yes, I do. And if you looked in my channel, the latest stream I've done, you'll definitely find the link. It's still active. If you guys can feel free to post it. I don't mind.
Okay. I'll pull up your server here. And
the silver lining to Andy, though, is that a couple of years, maybe 4 tops, he'll probably be dead from his muscular dystrophy.
So, now, a lot of your, some of your videos, all of them that I've watched, I thoroughly enjoy. Your one on, Peter Scully was definitely one of my favorites. What made you decide to cover a case that old?
It was a request from a guy named Fun and Review, who has actually helped me out by also sourcing me different conversations to talk about. He's talked about a predator or two in the past, and has requested times that, hey, would you like to cover this? I'm like, Yeah, sure. That sounds like an interesting thing to talk about, and I have. Peter Scully was an interesting case because it was a collab like video stream idea, and he wanted to talk about him. Like, yeah, maybe talking about Peter Scully is an interesting individual because of how fucked up the whole story of Peter Scully really is, and the so many different things that went on with the situation of who he is, his behaviors, his how far he's gone in this thing. It's extremely disturbing, but it's also interesting to examine because of how, I guess for the lack of a better term, frightening human beings can be, especially when it comes to something this dark. So it's definitely darker than what I usually end up talking about, which is just pedophiles who are usually self-admitted and spurgy, and some of them who've done fucked up stuff, and who knows if they'll like go to jail, because let's be honest, the corona and riots don't help the police in terms of resources, which is a crime and shame, but got to work with what I have, obviously.
Well, hey man, I mean, I've always heard it. I've always heard that, you know, good things can be made with the simplest of tools.
Mhm.
And so, you know, I mean, you and obviously I don't know, you know, everyone who works behind the scenes with you, and if a lot of them are here, you know, welcome. You know, welcome. You guys are always welcome here.
Mhm.
This is it's like I was explaining to Cass when I invited him on. You know, this show is this is a relaxed place. This is where we can come and talk about things, and we can have a few laughs, and you know, the conversation can shift, you know, from serious to fun, back to serious, and you know, it's all it's all over the place, and that's,
Yeah.
you know, that's the good thing about it. And the other thing is that I also feel that it's necessary to make people who may not necessarily have heard of people that I have on, to get to know some of these people and also show them support. You know, that's why I bring people on that I subscribe to and support, because I want others to find their work, and also show them a little love and throw them some money if they're, you know, taking donations to help with what they're doing and everything like that. But this, we want to talk about, we want to talk about the pandemic and the virus and everything like that. The truest plague, in my opinion, one of the truest plagues of this planet are the people who think that they can justify their attraction to kids. That is one of the sickest and most nauseating viruses on this planet. You know,
Oh, yeah.
it's like basically I'll compare it to this. It's like someone took a petri dish, put in a drop of Ebola, a drop of E. coli, a drop of HIV, West Nile virus, maybe a splash of Rona, and then just added a dash of syphilis to it. Think about all of that growing in a petri dish, and that's what you can basically get when you think of a map or a pedophile.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
exactly what that is.
Well, honestly, I would say that all of that stuff you described, all at once, would be much more desirable than dealing with a pedophile.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you what, I'll get that mixed up for you, and I'll let you experiment with that there, TF.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, let me know how that works out for you.
Deal with either one, but if I had to take my choice, I'd rather deal with all those diseases than a single pedophile.
You want? I tell you what, we'll take the show on the road, and we'll go and let you roll around in a cesspool. How about that?
Well, you know, Cesspool Tommy was one of my nicknames in high school, you know, so that's...
Yeah. What I'll say to this is that when it comes down to this whole predator hunting thing, I can't really confirm numbers in terms of how far we've gotten with it, but it doesn't mean for a lack of trying. Like, we try our damn hardest to get these people like reported and the police to look into it. And let's be honest with the police, it's always hit and miss if they're going to care, or if they have the resources, which they most certainly don't after this whole corona and fucking riot shit, especially.
Well, see, and that right there is, I know several cops. Some have been my friends for years, and every single one of them, like, if you talk to them all, the pedophiles rank up there at the top of their list of the people they want to take down. And for a lot of them, more so than even some of the drug dealers out there. Okay. And so the fact that they a lot of times don't have the resources to be able to investigate, or the talent to investigate things like, the cybercrime. They're very grateful for people who do the groundwork and go, okay, here's all the evidence that we found. Here's what you need. And they give them the evidence they need to start an investigation. And maybe they can make an appeal to the municipalities or whomever they answer to say, hey, we need to do this.
Yes.
Well, now I have a question, and this is something that if anyone out there has ever gone back and on the YouTube time machine, as I'll call it, or the rabbit hole, if you will, and watched a lot of those old episodes of To Catch a Predator, Chris Hansen, we all love Chris Hansen in a way. Come on, I mean, he was the man at the time. And honestly, I still think that he would be a pretty cool person to meet. The man, he was the man that started it all. One thing that I heard on one of the episodes of that I actually, because if you go onto YouTube, you can actually search, and they have like all the old full episodes of that on YouTube that you can go and watch. Now, if I remember correctly, as far as decoys go, or honey potting, as the maps call it, they are held under law. Like they're what they're doing and their safety and everything is held under law. Is that not correct?
It's more like a gray area, but how they commit to doing it is very much typical with what the law will allow. You're not allowed to do certain things like trying to actively instigate a sexual conversation. That would be considered entrapment at like some form. So a lot of the times it's essentially just asking a few questions and letting the freak speak. And it usually works out, because if there's one truth about pedophiles, is that they think with their genitals. They don't think with their brains most of the time. So just asking a proper question, or having a certain, title for a username is enough to set them off in terms of trying to viciously gain some form of sexual gratification. Other than that, from what I know about decoys, is that it still is considered entrapment if you were to actively engage in the sexual conversation.
Right. I know that if you they can't actually start the conversation. Obviously, if they did that, then clearly that is entrapment. Yeah. But now, originally, if you go back to the tactics that they were using back during the 90s, creating the profile of someone who clearly looks underage, and just go in there and just chill out and not say anything to anybody. I remember one of the older episodes that I watched, one of the guys from Perverted Justice was the group that they were using at the time.
Yep.
They would go in and not say anything to anybody, and then he said they would get so many private messages and everything like that, it would crash their computers.
Oh yeah.
And
they were wizards at what they did. They were so effective that the police departments, prison cells were like filled to the brim with pedophiles.
right, but then the show really got in a lot of trouble over
Yep.
the one that the one they went after. I believe he was a district attorney or something like that, and he ended up committing suicide.
Yep.
Which really, you know,
Well, one of the things that they usually did too, though, is that they have to from the very beginning cooperate with law enforcement. And like you're saying, anything that would be illegal for law enforcement to do is illegal for anyone acting on behalf of law enforcement.
Yeah.
So you're right there, and so there. However, there's a lot of gray area, but when you're dealing with something that is, you can get this guy locked up for life, depending on how severe and what strike he's on.
Mhm.
Gaming First says Chris Hansen could do a prank show of just asking people to have a seat.
It would work.
That now I would watch that. I would actually watch that.
Yeah, it's like I can't remember what he did though. Like, what did Chris Hansen? Because it can't be just that one where the DA committed suicide, because
He did well. If you're
there
talking,
had to be something that caused him to have a fall from grace, though. I can't remember what.
Well, no, it was the yeah, that was something Wanderer was saying. Chris Hansen had a fall from grace, in my opinion, but nothing can tarnish the old work he did, and that's very, very true. He had, as a matter of fact, TF. Why don't you do some Google foo and
Right.
and look up and look up the Chris Hansen thing for me real quick. Cass, that's a new martial arts that we're working on, and we'd be glad to teach you Google foo. TF and I have our black belts in Google foo, so we'd be glad to teach you.
Oh, no problem. That sounds like that would be a fun ride. And what I'll say about the whole Chris Hansen thing is I've seen plenty of documentaries talking about that. And there was a few interesting one exploring the topic that Chris Hansen and his group, to catch a predator, perverted justice, they weren't entirely at fault in the situation. The police department around that area was warned from the same guy who was trying to sue them into oblivion. I mean, sue Chris Hansen and his show. And the chief decided to go ahead with that without, answering to high command about their sting operation. And other issues.
And I think it was just in that one little town in Texas, right? Like they didn't, like they just came in and basically did the operation and didn't give the district attorney a heads up. Didn't give.
No, they literally just jumped into it. And the funny thing about that is that this whole sting operation wasn't needed for Chris Hansen. He was already going well in different places. He could have just decided not to do that, and he would have been fine. The problem is that it was a clusterfuck of so many different proportions, where people from, I think, was it one of the perverted justice individuals screwed up and might have ended up inadvertently alerting the pedophile in question. And then you had the police department, which didn't heed the advice of his higher ups, and sort of just went with a sting operation anyway, and people were mad because they didn't want that, and the way they went about it wasn't necessarily entirely ethical. It got to the point where certain people would actively go to these sting operations just to protest, and even if that inadvertently alerted a potential predator to stay away, because that they were trying to essentially, throw out the sting operation as a protest against the show and the police department for not listening. And because it wasn't just that, a lot of people in that area was concerned about their town being made into a sting operation. They liked the reputation of their town. They didn't want their town being known for having pedophiles in it. You know what I mean by that. People don't like that in their local areas, to be known for that kind of stuff.
Well, right, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, so, at the same time, I would look at that as shielding in a way. Like you don't want your town to be known for having these people in it, but these people are in it, and they need to be brought to light, and they need to be handled accordingly.
Well,
So,
every town has them.
well, that's very true, but they still need to be exposed and brought to justice. Wanderer says recently it was the handling of the Onision situation. He was paid to promote a phone scam from Pablo Escobar's family, and he also evaded taxes, I believe.
Oof. Oof. Jesus.
For more context, it was a family member, I believe, and the payment was through Cameo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this. I do applaud him for trying to take down Onision.
You know, honestly, I don't know jack shit about Onision. Like, I started seeing stuff on Facebook about it, but I'm like, okay, who is this Joker? And
yeah,
go ahead.
And then I'm like, well, if maybe he's just another one of these, nutballs on YouTube who, thinks his videos are art and they're not really art. But
oh yeah, I'll just say this about the whole situation. Now, take this with whatever grain of salt you want. I wasn't around like from the sole beginning of people hating Onision, so take that for what it is. I have been around and known people who've talked about and been exposing Onision from the very beginning. So if those people want to come forward with information anytime soon, like sure, like be sure to clarify. But if there's one thing I will say from what I know about Onision, and this is something I've been kind of known for years because I talk to people who pretty much been going after this guy's ass for about a decade, if not more. The thing about Onision is the whole investigation on him was already screwed up long before Chris Hansen got involved. There was a lot of things that people had evidence of, and there was a lot of like flagging and a lot of like emotional outbursts and stuff that let a lot of potential evidence get burned and gone through the ether to never be collected again. A lot of things that had potential evidence, because of a lack of understanding, a lack of coherence, a lack of organization, has led where the potential victims talking about him can only do so through hearsay and not entirely through every piece of solid evidence that they could have had on him a long time ago. So even if Chris Hansen got involved, it just wouldn't guarantee that he'll be behind bars.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to actually get caught up on Onision and see some of the crap he's notorious for, look up Morgus. She has some great videos on him, and they are hilarious as well. At one point, she got into his paid Patreon group, and just the stuff they talked about in there and did, it was messed up. And she would go in and just troll them, and they thought she was just some idiot, but I mean, she gathered as much information as she needed on them.
Well, now I watched a lot of the Have a Seat with Chris Hansen, which honestly I couldn't think of a more brilliant name for him to use for a show. That was absolutely perfect. And I still agree with Wanderer. He should do a prank show where he just like walks into places and he tells people to do that and just freaks the shit out of them. I really think that would be a lot of fun.
Imagine him doing that at like coffee shops.
Exactly. I'd probably send him to Cass's house. I'd just send him to Cass's house and be like, look, all you got to do is just knock on the door and just be like, hi, I'm Chris Hansen. Won't you have a seat right over there? Just have a seat.
That'd be great. I will say, though, that I can respect the idea of Chris Hansen getting involved to bring more coverage to the situation. as much as I don't agree with some of his tactics or how he may have acted a little bit because or all the time, or his hubris in this regard, claiming that he was going to throw him, Onision in the slammer when anyone.
I couldn't believe that he actually. I couldn't believe he actually went to his house.
Now that was funny. I'm not gonna lie.
Now that's what kind of shocked me just a little bit. Oh, sorry, Wander. That was Gamey Fur. I apologize. I apologize. But no, I couldn't believe that he actually went to his house. And I'm like, okay, this is reminiscent of the old To Catch a Predator days, except instead of them coming to a sting house, he's going to their house. Honestly, I think he should have shown up with a pizza. And I'm not making light of the situation. I'm not. I honestly, I applaud him for going to the guy's house and calling him out. But honestly, I think it would have been very funny if he had just shown up with a pizza, or like they went to Domino's and got like a delivery guy to go to the door with him. And then when Onision answered the door, because it was like the Domino's guy, Chris Hansen just steps out from around the corner and it's just like, have a seat right over there.
Hey, so did you see the any of the meltdown videos that Onision put out?
Oh, yeah, I have. And quite frankly, my opinion on that is it's a little hard to say if that was a joke or not. I kind of think it is.
Think they were all staged. There is no way he, although I could see with him being enough of a sick attention seeker as he is, I could see it being very feasible that he would have posted those videos in such a way as to garner more attention for himself, because he might be of the mentality that there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Well, that's exactly the kind of mindset he always has, that there is no such thing as bad publicity to him. Those types don't tend to last long in most cases, but that's kind of what he thinks. I will say, though, about Onision in that sense is that I do legit think that at some level, in a more like deeper behind the hood of his character and him as a person, I do think those videos were kind of serious. I think he's the kind of guy who hides a lot of his insecurities in forms of a stupid joke or stunt to make it seem like it's more to sort of downplay it more than what he actually feels. It's very self-evident.
Was that what the whole thing about the I'm a banana was about then?
Maybe.
Oh gosh.
The most I can say to that is that the most his videos tend to confirm to me is that he's a crazy son of a bitch.
Exactly. Wanderer says also very recently he tried to compare the George Floyd murder with the Onision situation. No, Chris Hansen, no.
I'm sorry, that's a bit of a stretch.
That is a massive stretch. I don't do. I know TF does. Cass, do you watch the Boondocks, or have you watched the Boondocks by any chance?
The Boondocks? Like the movie or like
the cartoon?
Oh, the Boondocks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you see the little Chris Hansen thing that they did on one episode?
I like to call you Chris Handsome.
Chris Handsome.
I'm a warrior.
It's just, I was like, oh, I know who you are, Chris Hansen. Only I calls you Chris Handsome. I watch your TV show all the time. Now I like you, and I want you. We can do this the easy way or the hard way.
The hard way. The choice is yours.
Now, did you know? Now, at the start of that, the voice of the little boy at the start of it is the woman who played Marcy on Married with Children. I didn't know that until like a couple of years ago, but yeah, every time I watch that, like I still to this day I still show that little snippet to people, and they're like, "Oh my god, I didn't know that existed. That's so funny." And I'm like, "Well, you should have watched better TV, I guess. I don't know."
But that is news to me. But then again, I am notoriously horrible at keeping up with the Joneses.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we all are in a way.
So one thing I wanted to mention, one thing about Onision I wanted to mention is he. A lot of people don't realize is he has a less than honorable discharge from the military, and basically what that means is you didn't do things bad enough to get a dishonorable discharge. You were, however, enough of a turd, a literal turd, not a nickname, but you were really
not a metaphorical turd, but a literal turd.
Yes, you were really that crappy of a person that they just basically washed their hands of you and kicked you out, but they didn't want to harm you. So he could still go to the VA and get VA benefits. He cannot use the GI Bill, though. And some of the stuff the guy was saying, I mean, he was trying to go, I think, special ops with the Air Force, which, if you know anybody in the military or have ever looked into the military yourself, the Air Force basic training is one of the easiest ones out there. The Air Force and the Navy typically are easier than the Army and the Marines. Mm. And but when you go special ops, you're basically held to the same standard that the other special ops are. So the stuff that you didn't get to do in basic training, like rucking, which is running with a 50-pound pack on your back, you have to do in that training. And now, to their credit, the Air Force, and I'm a huge fan of the Air Force and the Navy, but or actually all of our military, but top for me are Air Force and Navy. To their credit, the Air Force special ops, and I've talked to other guys about this, and there have been officers from the Navy and other special operations who have confirmed that the Air Force special ops are the ones who will do things that the Navy SEALs won't touch with a 10-foot pole. And do you realize how badass you have to be for the Navy SEALs to go, we're not touching that? And then your team goes, we'll do it. And you succeed, and that's not knocking the Navy SEALs, but we all know the standard that the Navy SEALs are held to. Yeah. And those guys are meeting it and exceeding it in many cases. So these guys, they're nothing to joke with. And some of the stuff that they will do, there's a course called SEER, and it's SERE, and it's stealth. I think it stands for stealth, evasion, and I can't remember what it all stands for, but it's basically like, how do you resist interrogation and possible torture? Yeah. So there are things they put you through that simulate possible scenarios you will go through. Like one of them will put you in a box. And people say, well, that's just harsh and unusual. And I'm going, that's what's happened to people. Like, go talk to Vietnam vets, talk to John McCain's family and find out what he went through. And they will tell you he went through a lot. And that's why after Vietnam, they added that to the pipeline. So he complained about SEER training, and his big complaint was that they basically put him through mental anguish. They put him through physical torture, as he would say, and I can't remember the word he used for it, but I'm going, dude, you knew what you're getting into when you signed up. It's not like they rounded you up off the street. They are very upfront with what they do. You can go on YouTube, look at anything. You could do a Google search, and this is granted the early 2000s when he did that, but he could have looked it all up, and he, I guess, didn't. But even then, they're very upfront with you. All right, SEER training. You're going to go through this. You're going to do this. It sucks. But if you make it through the training, you're good to go.
Oh yeah. No, they make it pretty clear what type of things they want. If you want to be like, okay, I want to be part of this branch. I want to do this particular division work. Like, oh, okay, well, here's the standards. They're pretty honest about that. I will say that. I mean, the whole point of Americans military is to work with volunteers, obviously. So they're going to be honest about it because they want people who know what they're getting themselves into. And if you volunteer for it, well, you volunteer for it. You can't. It's kind of pointless to complain about like the physical and mental torture of the training regiment when that's exactly what the training regiment by design is.
Yeah, and I've got a friend right now who is in the pipeline to be a Green Beret, and he's gone through a good portion of it, and he made it through special operations selection, which is the part that you go through to make sure that you're cut out for this. And what a lot of people don't realize is the average age of a special operations soldier, no matter which branch, the average age is 32 of people who go through. And granted, it's the Navy SEALs who are pulling it down because, Navy SEALs, you'll have to get an age waiver if you're 30 going through it. But with the Air Force, you can be 39 and go through it.
Yeah.
With the other branches, you can be at their maximum age or even be older. I mean, there's a story I heard of a guy who enlisted at 37 and still became a Green Beret.
Oh yeah.
Had just all sorts of stuff, and he got age waivers for that. And and one thing too about the military, a lot of people will realize, and this is in case anybody wants to join and you feel like you may have missed the boat, if you're talking to one recruiter and the recruiter of that branch is telling you you have missed the boat, go talk to another recruiter. Yep. David Goggins, in his book Can't Hurt Me, talks about how he went through several recruiters in several states in order to find one who would work with him to get him into Navy SEAL training.
Oh yeah. It's not as concrete entirely. There's so many different things you can work with in the military. Yeah. If it's not active duty, it's more like civilian role and other things. What have you.
Well, and even the Navy SEALs will give you an age waiver above 30 if you have a particular set of skills that they need. So usually, if you're a computer geek and you're like, "Hey, I want to go become a Navy SEAL," not too many computer geeks want to do that in the military. So if you're one who knows computers, networking, how to hack and all this other stuff, you've got a good chance. You could be 35 and go in and they go, yeah, that's a skill set we need.
Oh yeah, they would do just about anything to have somebody like that in their employ. I mean, hacking's one of those things that isn't just like, oh, you learned it for a few years, therefore you're masterful at it. No, it's something that takes a lot of set of skills and talents to really be good at it, and a lot of years of thought and teaching yourself and getting taught by others how to do it. Those are skills that are not always easy to find with people.
No, and honestly, if I could get myself in shape enough, I would not be opposed to still going and talking to our military and some special ops and seeing what I could do to get in.
Yeah.
Because that would be cool.
Just hit him with a diamond cutter.
Imagine you're doing a raid, like you're raiding Saddam or Osama bin Laden's place, and someone just does a diamond cutter on him.
Exactly. Just be like, how'd you take out Osama bin Laden? Diamond cutter, baby. So, Cas, let me ask you a question. Whatever became of Daniel Romanos?
It's a very weird situation. I think I won't really get too much into it, but essentially we were looking into him. Well, we still are. We have some evidence to suggest that he's still around. He's just hiding behind sock puppet accounts and stuff. And the reason for that being is that somebody had some weird thing against me. So he thought he can copy my shtick, which is usually the most effective. One of the things I obviously do on my show is documenting, archiving stuff, and of course, having an interview with a person or two and letting them talk and see where that goes. And, I'm sure you've seen my show enough and you can see how effective I am at letting that happen. And how effective it is to let these people talk and expose themselves. He tried to get involved with a certain YouTuber because this YouTuber had a personal vendetta against me, and what he didn't realize is that Daniel Romanos is a legit predator. He's not some random asshole. He is a legit freak, and a lot of his friends kind of went after him about like, why are you trying to defend this guy? Why are you trying to like why are you trying to be nice to this guy? Why are you defending an animal abuser to go after this like random guy with a fox avatar on the internet? And it sort of devolved into a situation where apparently like Daniel Romanos was afraid because he caught the attention of other groups. He caught the attention of my group. We some new information came out about his activities, and he just decided to disappear.
Well, now he was the one, if I remember correctly, and I was going back and digging through some stuff. He actually went on Bob Larson's radio show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what I was just kind of fact checking myself on that, because I mean, TF and I grew up in the age where you had, you know, idiots like Bob Larson and Robert Tilton and all these other, you know, preachers for profit D-bags all over the TV and the radio and all of this. And to me, I mean, Bob Larson is just a joke to begin with. And if for some reason, if he ever heard this, I would tell him that. Honestly, I would tell him that to his face. Well, I mean, the man pretends to be a fucking exorcist, for Christ's sake. And
his daughter is just as nutty as he is.
Oh, I know that, but I'm like, you can only become an exorcist if you're sanctioned through the Catholic Church, you nut job. But anyway, because you told me about those videos and everything a while back, and I've been through and I've watched them a little bit more, and if I remember correctly, didn't he say he was like a practicing like Satanist or devil worshiper or something also?
Well, here's what he explained to a lot of people when that came about publicly, is that supposedly, and this is kind of ironic given how the way he uses his words in this regard, he is someone who is paid supposedly by Bob Larson to play the role of a pedophilic Satanist that does evil magical spells to attract little girls to fuck them. When questioned about this, he would sit there and constantly like say that he was never a Satanist, which is ironic because in the way that when he talks about being a Satanist, he finds that a point of contention in his life. I mean, not the fact that he's also a pedophile, but
So wait a minute, Bob Larson has been shielding a pedophile?
From what I can tell, I don't know. Like, we've came across website. I've had someone attempt to contact Larson. We never got any results off of that. I can't tell if it's a dead fucking phone number or something. You know what I mean? It's just we've tried contacting Larson. We don't really have anything to show for it so far. At least one of the people I trust to deal with that has attempted that, and nothing's come about it. What we do know is that Daniel Romanos, like that, we believe that's the start of his little thing, right? He apparently was paid by, in his own words, by Bob Larson to create a narrative about Satanists being basically a bunch of magically inclined dark magic pedophiles. Even though when you question Romanos on this, he won't denounce his pedophilia. He'll just denounce his time as a Satanist. Or LARPing as a Satanist. Again, very fucking odd. But right. This was the question. This was the answers we got from him in that regard, and it was very odd because we don't really know if Larson was aware that Romanos was a pedophile at the time, and it makes it weird because from the very get-go of Mr. Romanos's internet activity is that he never shied away about being a self-admitted pedophile at any point. He had a lot of identities, a lot of things. He's been on the internet for quite some time. He's been around places for quite some time, and he has always admitted that he's a child molester, that if you give him the option, he will do things to a kid. So, again, we don't know if Larson was ever aware of this, but in a public sense with someone like Romanos. He never shied away from that mindset, so it does draw some questions.
I'm
ones.
I'm posting the link in the chat to the last website I could actually find for Bob Larson website if people want to go and see what an insane D-bag he is.
Like, what show was he on back in the 90s? It was like Sally Jesse Raphael or Phil Donahue or Geraldo Rivera's show one.
No. Bob Larson had his own radio show back in the day.
No, he was a guest on one of those shows where they were talking about exorcisms and stuff like that.
Hang on, let me stretch and do some Google foo. I don't want to pull a hamstring like last time.
Oh my gosh, man! He's wearing a clerical collar in this.
Yeah,
it's so cringy.
It is.
He literally thinks that he is an exorcist, and like, dude, you're not even close. You're not even close. Like,
Oh, his books. Here it is. Here's some of his books. Dealing with Demons, World Religions and Alternative Spirituality, Curse Breaking, Jezebel, something. Do you have a demon? Take the free test. Okay.
Oh, take the test. Take the test right now.
Taking the test. Let's see.
Okay, all right, let's do this.
Do you want me to share my screen with you guys so y'all can see it?
Yeah, sure.
All right, here we go. And there's no audio, so share Chrome tab. Demon Test. Okay, Demon Test sounds like the name of a power metal band. All right. Dear friend, thank you for taking time to take the Demon Test. And he's got it registered. He's got it trademarked, dude.
Oh, wow.
This may be the most important spiritual decision you make. Based on 40... Oh, my gosh, I'm sorry. I just saw that picture. Based on 40 years of research and thousands of hours in personal ministry.
He in that picture, he looks like somebody who does porn just dressed as a priest.
Yeah, but it's a porn that you actually pay not to watch. It's a porn that you pay for the Pornhub to keep it down in the search results. Okay, so consider visiting our ministry in Scottsdale, Arizona. Nope, I do not want to have any spiritual encounter with you, dude. Attend one of our spiritual freedom seminars in selected cities. Nope, not doing that. Receive ministry through. Nope.
Just take the test. Just take.
Okay.
It.
Next, create an account. What?
Oh, they want you to create an account. Oh no. That may not exactly be the best idea in the world.
Turd face. Wait. Wait. Got it better.
No, call yourself Butterface.
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 Let's see. Crud. I'm gonna create. Man. See, should I use my actual email? No, I don't want to.
No, you're screen sharing right now, dude.
Yeah, well, hold on. Let me open up another tab. Y'all can't see that tab, so.
Okay, all right. I tell you what. I'm gonna close the screen share. Go ahead and set that up, and then we'll
Okay.
And then we'll.
I'll let you know when I'm ready.
Okay, hang on just a second. Oh crap! I didn't mean to do that, Justin. If you can hear me, come back in. I clicked the wrong thing. I'm sorry.
Oh shit!
I did, man. Oh, dude.
Oh no. That's not good.
Oh, I know. Hang on. Let me message him real quick. I cannot believe I did that. Oh my god. I am
Oof.
thoroughly
Is
embarrassed.
it like,
I am thoroughly
was it a
embarrassed.
straight, did you accidentally do like a straight ban, or was it just a random kick?
No, I accidentally kicked him out. That was my bad. Oh man. I feel like an asshole right now. Oh, so while we're waiting for him, um, yes, I'm well aware that we really can't see it now, Gamey Fur. I'm sorry. Okay, I had a misslip with the mouse and the clicker and the things and the stuff, and that was my fault. So
Yeah.
I am the bad person. Um,
Yeah.
so what new are you working on right now, or are you at liberty to tell us?
Well, typically the answer I always have to give you is that I'm not at liberty to say, but a lot of I will be honest, I think for the last a good amount of my months being absent is largely due to a hiatus and other people that I work with being currently busier with other things, but it doesn't mean like the series is at any real halt. It's mostly still just a position of examining things that are going on before anything happens. I mean, that's just kind of naturally who I am as a person. If you know anything about me, I'm just a guy who observes shit happening before I talk about it. Usually taking quite a while with it because I don't know. I don't like to be the type of guy who talks about something right when it happens, because
Right.
I think that's kind of jinxing it.
Right, TF, I am so sorry, dude. I hit the wrong thing.
No worries.
That's why I was trying to buzz you on Facebook real quick while Cass was, going over a few things. So I'm just like, dude, get back in here. I'm sorry.
I'll just say I try to avoid the instant ramen style of like calling people out on like YouTube and video, like in video format as much as possible. You know what I mean? Like people like, oh, I just heard this happen, I'm going to make a stream about it. I try to avoid that a little bit.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. If I have something to talk about, it will be because I've tried everything in my power to examine what's going on and cement the facts from it before saying anything, or at least make the god honest attempt. Which is not always easy. You'll be surprised how many times a situation dissolves into he said, she said relatively quickly. It happens a lot. In fact, there's been examples of people who have attempted to outright lie about situations regarding others in order to sort of recruit me in their little personal internet wars. And that's the reason why I tend to be so gung-ho about taking the observation stance and sometimes spending, if not a month or two, just examining a situation before I say a single word about it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when it comes to any subject matter, especially of something of large importance, like whether I mean, it's best to do proper reading, research, everything else before you say anything, instead of just slap on the back of the head and right out the mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of people have this weird obsession with like just jumping right into it, and then like as soon as the story is all said and done, assuming they didn't fuck it up in the long run, it would be like, oh, I'm big dick cheese. I have all this. I should deserve all this clout because I'm the first person to talk about this individual. And again, that's kind of why I try to stay away from that mindset. I'm not really concerned about who talks about who first. I'm not really concerned about what's the numbers behind how many people I've thrown in prison. I am simply just more concerned about examining the situation and eventually reporting on it in a public sense, but behind the scenes trying to work with people to see like how can we really get law enforcement involved in this. And sometimes the answer is yes or no. We don't always know. It's sometimes it may fall in line with the idea that the police may not have enough to really pursue someone. And that's their decision. The most I can say to do is not waste my time in that kind of dumb like YouTube clout game, and just focus on, okay, like, do we really have all we need to really put, like, essentially properly burn this person in a legal stake?
Right. Okay, so apparently we're ready for the demon test.
Yes. All
Okay.
right, here we go. Sharing my screen. All right. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Okay, so you may have to read the questions out loud.
All right. Do you sometimes exhibit uncontrollable outbursts of anger or violence?
Depends on what you call anger or violence.
Yeah. Driving in Nashville, I do get angry. So, yeah. So, I'll put currently. Doesn't ask for. Have you experimented with 2 or more forms of the occult? Never. So if it's just one, you're fine. But if it's 2 or more, you're screwed. Have you been sexually violated? No, I have not.
Have you been what?
Sexually violated, raped, incested, or molested? Do you sometimes manifest behavior not consistent with your normal personality? Yeah, everybody does.
That's common sense.
Do you abuse alcohol or drugs to escape painful or No, I don't.
No, we just abuse them for fun.
Yeah, seriously. Do you commit immoral or illegal acts contrary to your customary values?
But what are customary values?
Yeah, I'm going to leave that never. Have you ever attempted or contemplated suicide? In my past, not attempted it, but I contemplated it. Are you sometimes overwhelmed with feelings of severe depression and hopelessness?
Everyone
Sometimes.
is.
Yeah. Do you indulge in self-abusive behavior such as anorexia, bulimia, cutting, or mutilation? No, but I do take stupid online tests when I'm for entertainment's sake. Have you ever experienced life-changing trauma from which you haven't recovered? Yes.
I'm taking this test.
This test is a prime example. Do you know of ancestors who committed murder, suicide, or sexual perversion? Yes. Okay, so wait. So that question, do you know of ancestors who committed murder, suicide, or sexual perversion? Never. In my past, currently. Those responses don't make any sense for that question. Do voices tell you to commit illegal acts, blaspheme God, or indulge in immoral acts? What?
What? Oh no.
Only when I sleep.
Have you asked Satan to take your life in exchange for something?
Oh Jesus.
Oh God, this is.
No, he and I couldn't come to terms. So I had to leave the negotiating table.
You would meet me halfway.
Yeah. Look, this is not a 90-10 split, okay? We're going to go 50-50 or not at all. So
wait, do you live a fear-based life resulting in paranoia or multiple phobias? Yes, when I was a fundamentalist. Ooh, snap, told him.
Right?
Have you experienced emotional or physical abuse from your biological parents? My dad was an asshole, yes. Have you been emotionally or physically abandoned by either biological parent? Yes, my dad is an asshole. I just repeated that. Have you felt repeated disabling episodes of depression or rejection? Hello, it's called dating.
Right?
Have you failed repeatedly in significant relationships?
Once again,
yes, it's called dating. Have you failed to experience trust and lasting love from a significant other? Yes.
Once again, it's called dating.
Do you consistently experience serious health or financial issues?
Everyone does.
It's called living life in a pandemic. And if you're a millennial, you're just screwed. Are you significantly hindered in prayer, worship, Bible reading, and church attendance? No. Well, in my past when I was a fundamentalist, but now that I'm Greek Orthodox, I'm much more relaxed about things.
Okay, now here it's time for the answer.
What the?
Is this like a medical breakdown, or is this a bunch of advertisements?
I guess so.
Jesus Christ, so many. What?
He's selling me his books, dude.
Is that all that test was? Was just a marketing ploy?
Somehow I am not surprised, but
I'm
also
not surprised
kind of
either. I'm not surprised either. But Bob Larson, you son of a bitch, you were supposed to tell me if we had demons in us. I don't want to buy your books.
Yeah, like seriously, here are the books that they're marketing. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Your score is a 25.
Okay, what
you're
is it?
At high risk of demonic.
It says you're at high risk of demonic possession or
Moderate.
moderate risk.
Moderate risk. It's like that is so much about my life. It's like at least I struck a balance, you know.
That is so confusing.
Save me, Bob Larson. Save me.
Okay, I am saving this.
Oh, you got to put that up on Facebook, dude.
Oh, dude, I am saving this, man. This is amazing. Oh man, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen.
I always knew that Bob Larson was a D-bag, but now it's confirmed.
Jesus Christ! Every opportunity to sell you his fucking shit.
I know, man. This is the best. I feel like I've accomplished something today. So here are the books. Here are the books they're advertising. Do you have a demon? Can a Christian have a demon? Larson's Book of Spiritual Warfare. Larson's Book of World Religions and Alternative Spirituality. Let's see. Again, can a Christian have a demon? How Christians are affected by curses. The Complete Guide to Curse Breaking. That's one of the books. 6 Strongholds of Satan and Self-Deliverance.
For $29.99, you can get one word of the answer. One word of the answer you seek.
You know what the real answer is? 42.
No, I think the answer is pineapple. Baseball, maybe? I don't know.
Demon Test. Your subscription is now active. This is what the email says. Congratulations, Turds Day. The Demon Test plan has been successfully activated.
You put in the name Turd Stain?
No, Turds Day.
Oh, Turds Day.
Turds Day.
Like, you figure that they would screen people like trying to sign up for this because they have to know that no legitimate person with an IQ higher than their shoe size is going to take this shit seriously.
Yeah, what's so funny is I probably should have gone with like Orgasmo or something.
Like Rock Hard Johnson. You know? or Steve McPlowhard or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so interesting how all of that stuff is catered to lure you into buying one of his books.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, remember he was a televangelist at one point, and then he started doing that stupid radio show, and his radio show was what was the funniest, because he would get these people to come on and he would want to debate with them, but all he would do is just shout and overtalk them and just try to make them look foolish when all he was doing was would make himself look foolish. And then by the time he was just like, you know what, I've had enough. It's time to wrap up anyway. It's like, well, you didn't really give me a chance to really say anything, but whatever. I mean, he like. I would call him probably like the Alex Jones of the spiritual world.
I would put Alex Jones a few notches above him because
actually, I would probably put them all on the same peg. Actually,
well, at least Alex Jones admitted in a court of law that what he does is entertainment.
Well, it is entertaining, but I seriously think he needs some like psychological therapy.
Golly, and one thing Bob Larson has not said that Alex Jones did say was, "It's turning the friggin' frogs gay."
Could you imagine Alex Jones on acid?
Oh wow,
dude! Did you listen to the episodes of the Joe Rogan podcast that he was on?
No.
He got drunk and high and started talking about fourth dimensional child molesters that the elite believe in.
Cass, we found your next target's fourth dimensional child molester. So everyone in your group that's still here, you guys, get ready because that's going to be going to be what you're going to have to go after next is those damn fourth dimensional child molesters.
I'm going to have to get out the interdimensional fishing hooks.
Dude, it's so funny because if you go back and listen to it, he's like, well, what the Illuminati and the elite believe is, he goes, I don't really believe this, but they believe it, that there are these fourth dimensional child molesters that come in, and that's how they gain their powers, by molesting children in this dimension. But they retreat back to the fourth dimension. And it's like, and the looks on Eddie Bravo's face and Joe Rogan's face were priceless. I mean, they were just both like, oh my gosh, what did we get into here?
Yeah, it's like, and why did I invite you on this show again?
Joe Rogan invited him on the show because he knew what Alex would do. He knew Alex would deliver.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, did you ever watch his Ted Nugent interview?
No.
Yeah, he had Ted Nugent on like once or twice. But yeah, Cash, you guys need to, you need to gear up, man, because that fourth wall is going to get broken, and then here's going to come those fourth dimensional child molesters. So,
well, I mean, technically, we already deal with a fourth dimension. We've got the X axis, the Y axis, the Z axis, and then you have time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was attempting to make a joke, but thank you, Mr. Physics. Thank you, Dr. TF, doctor of interdimensional fourth wall breaking and fourth dimension child molesters.
Time to whip out those interdimensional baseball bats.
Right. I think it's time we develop I think it's time
to break a few interdimensional omelets.
Yeah. Time, man. I'm gonna go crack some interdimensional skulls, bro. So Cass, what does the future hold for your channel and your content?
As it is with my content, I'll say obviously just to put this out of the way for those who've been concerned about why I haven't uploaded for some months and if that will affect the Hunt series as a whole. No, it's obviously going to be here to stay. No shit Sherlock type of situation. There's going to be other things as well added to the Hunt series. So there's going to be some, of course, still hunting them predators. And there's also going to be, a little bit more like interesting kind of funny stuff as well. Not necessarily 100% of a dark topic all the time. Like the whole point of the Hunt series by its definition was essentially just be on the hunt for the insanity that is usually around on the internet. So, the whole pedo hunting thing is just one facet of it. and there will always be a potential for other things in that series moving forward, for other conversations to exist as well. There's also other forms of content I'm currently interested in doing as well, in between the hunting the predators thing. Let's be honest, hunting predators takes a while, so and I have other things that also I want to talk about, so I'm basically trying to fix up a proper schedule for my mental schedule for myself to keep uploading other things. So if you're interested in other things, like maybe talking about some new stuff and, you know, talking about other crazy stuff as well, then stick around. And if you are just interested in hunting predators and stuff, then stick around as well. You can find me on fucking YouTube. You can, very easy to find. You can also find me on Twitter at Cas Warfox. You can find me on Discord through my Discord server. It's not hard to find.
And there is a link to your channel in the description. So,
Yep.
well, now the one thing that I wanted to ask you earlier. Now, I've come across quite a few channels where, like, people are actually going out in public and putting these guys on blast. How do you feel about channels like Anxiety War and Predator Poachers and things like that?
I don't really have an issue with them. I know that there's a lot of controversy surrounding these channels, right? I've seen a lot of people that like them and a lot of people that condemn them. In my personal opinion, I don't necessarily think what they're doing this is necessarily a bad thing, but obviously my format is a little bit different than theirs. Theirs is like going to someone in real life and obviously giving them shit for the stuff they've been doing. Mine is more related to documenting what I've seen on the internet, and sometimes whatever, if like what we have proof of some real life stuff. So I'm more of a archiver and documenter. They're more people who will actively approach these people and give them a hard time, and I'm okay with that. I honestly don't see anything entirely wrong with it. I guess maybe some of them do bridge the line, perhaps. And there's probably a genuine argument for that, but as a whole, I don't mind them. In fact, I kind of use some of those channels and what they do is something to research as to how to effectively hunt down and look into these predators better, because a lot of these channels, especially Anxiety War, they do kind of lay out how they do it. And I think there's a lot of useful information to research as to like what they do and how that's a legally viable thing to do, and that like how you can be more efficient at this. And even if it's not like you're not going after them in real life, I mean, even if you're just like me who documents the internet insanity for what it is, it's still useful resource material.
Now, I watch Anxiety War, whenever he uploads, regularly. I mean, that I kind of feel like I applaud what he's doing, but I mean, that guy's really putting himself at risk, because he's going alone. He doesn't have backup or, anything like that. I mean, do you think that, how do you feel about someone who's going to go confront them in public, but they do it alone? Like it's just them with the camera.
Honestly, yeah, I can totally see why that would be an issue. That's a total safety hazard. Like, that if you confront someone for being what they are, and they know they're being streamed on the internet, and they know that, let's be honest, given how much everyone justifiably hates pedophilia, some people are probably bound to take extremes with it more than others. And all you have to do at that point is, if you expose someone as a legit predator in real life, then they will realize that, their lives are essentially over with. So with that kind of mindset that starts taking over, they could potentially hurt you. That's always a possibility, yeah. I'm surprised that an incident hasn't happened sooner.
So,
that's really the case.
So how do you confirm if you have correctly identified someone as a pedophile versus like this person. There's some shady things here, but the person, we can't say conclusively that the person is. How do y'all go about determining that you have enough evidence to say this definitely?
Well, it's basically a series of getting them to either admit to it, or if you have, like, let's say, some rather sensitive information and you use it to like connect accounts that attach to something, or like maybe connect to, like, I don't know, maybe even an IP address at some level if they're not using a VPN. Like, I guess if you're going that far, from what I can tell, 9 times out of 10, it's not that hard to get a pedophile to legit expose themselves and cross-reference that towards like their identity, because a lot of them aren't the types that are very good at keeping their shit private, or essentially being so autistically careful with the Google's search algorithm that, if I look up someone who doesn't have their real name and they're a pedo and they met on Twitter, there's probably a good chance that if I look up their account on Google, there probably is a few a few tracks where you'll find their identity from the real stuff relatively easy.
It's too bad that you can't get if you get like an image or a picture of them. It's too bad you don't have access to like facial recognition software. I mean, that would definitely cut out a lot of the legwork. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, the metaphorical legwork.
Yeah. There's things like obviously reverse image searching. There's a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot of cross-referencing, and trying to figure out like what kind of identities that these people do, because you'll be surprised that a lot of people use the same identity that they use constantly on anything else. So like you can look up somebody who calls themselves Edgy Boy 69. Turns out Edgy Boy 69 likes little boys. You look them up on Google, you find a lot of accounts with very similar names that have a very similar typing structure and wordage and videos or voices. Or you may even find their real identity just by simply looking it up. Google's pretty autistic about that. I will say that. Like, if you're not careful about that kind of stuff, it's very easy to find someone's identity through an alias, even if you don't know how to properly separate that. And a lot of those people don't. Joseph Daniels didn't. Andy didn't, because like. And in fact, we kind of got him to admit a lot of things about himself and his identity. So it wasn't that hard to figure out who he is, where he lives, and blah, blah, blah.
Well, between Andy and Jared and what was his name you were just talking about, Daniel?
Mm-hmm.
I think probably between the three of them, they don't have like half an IQ point. So,
most of these freaks aren't. This is the reason why I focus so much on also doing like interviews on streams. You've seen that before.
Yeah.
Because like it does two purposes. One, it helps to sort of build an idea with the audience as to who these people are and what they believe in, so that the audience is more tested by the fact that these people legitimately believe their shit. And two, when you ask the right questions, you'll be surprised how easy it is to get some bits of pieces of information off of them. And you'll be surprised that if you ask just the right question at the right time, you'll get them to admit to not only some fucked up shit they really believe in or have done, you also might have gotten bits of their personal information they expose out there themselves that you probably wouldn't have been privy to anyway.
Pizza's here. Hello?
Yeah, sorry. I guess pizza's here.
No problem. Well, it's about time to wrap up anyway. So, but Cass, before we sign off, what do you have anything coming up that you're going to be posting, say within the next couple of weeks, that we can look forward to?
Again, I can't really say for sure, but whatever I will update on the coming weeks, I will most certainly attempt to make updates on. I try to be careful with that, of course, because of how the nature of this kind of work is.
Right. I mean, feel free to, whenever you do a channel update or post a video or anything, you're in my Discord. Feel free to post it there. Your work is always welcome in my Discord and everything like that. There is once again, there is a link in the description to Cas's channel. Go give him a subscription. Like his work. He's a good dude and he works very, very hard, and he deserves all of the recognition that he can get, and along with all of his friends, they do great work. TF, do you have anything else you want to ask Cass?
Oh, I'm good. Enjoy it.
Well, all right. Well, guys, this is going to wrap up the episode of the Sanctum Sanctorum for today. Cass, thank you so much for coming on the show, and you are always just like everyone else. You are always welcome on the show anytime you'd like to come on. But I will definitely have you again on in the future, and see what's been going on. But thank you so much for coming and giving us a couple hours of your time.
It's no problem. It's my pleasure.
All right. Well, once again, guys, hit the subscription button, hit the notification bell here on my channel. Thank you so much for everyone who has tuned in today. I hope you all enjoyed the show, and we will be back next Saturday, 2 p.m. Central. And in the meantime, if you have any suggestions or anything of what you'd like to see on the show, post them in the comments section below. Feedback is always welcome. But until next Saturday, my friends, I hope all is well, and peace be with you.
Have a happy hunt.